A young girl sat alone in her wheelchair, in the middle of a deserted street, the rain falling steadily around her, soaking her thin jacket and making her hair cling to her pale face. She held a small, worn-out photo in her trembling hands and stared at it as if it contained the answers to all her questions. Her name was Lily, and she had always been different. Her legs had never worked the way other kids' legs did, and from the moment she was born, she had been confined to this chair. Her mother had passed away when she was very young, leaving her in the care of distant relatives who treated her with kindness sometimes, but mostly ignored her needs. She had grown up hearing whispers about her father, a wealthy man whose name was known across the country as a billionaire, a man whose face she had never truly seen, but whose existence she had never forgotten. She remembered the stories her mother used to tell her, stories full of love and promise of a father who had to leave to protect them from danger, who had to work in places she could never visit. She had clung to those stories like a lifeline, imagining that one day she would see him, that one day he would come back and everything would be different. The rain soaked her completely, and she shivered, but she could not bring herself to leave. She was used to the cold, to the loneliness, to the way the world passed her by without noticing her. She whispered into the rain, "Why did he leave me? Why am I all alone?" And her voice was lost in the sound of the water hitting the pavement around her. The city continued without concern. People hurried past under umbrellas, oblivious to the small figure in the wheelchair, who had dreams bigger than the buildings surrounding them. Her hand shook as she held the photo closer, and she closed her eyes, imagining what it would be like to have him by her side, to hear him say everything will be okay, to know that she mattered to someone so much bigger than herself. Suddenly, a sleek, black car pulled over a few feet away, the tires splashing water as it stopped, and the girl looked up in surprise. She was not used to anyone stopping for her, especially not in the middle of a rainstorm. A tall man in a dark, tailored suit stepped out of the car and paused, scanning the street, his eyes locking on Lily for a moment that seemed to stretch on forever. He knelt beside her slowly, his movements careful, as if he did not want to startle her. "Are you okay, young lady?" he asked gently. Looking into her eyes, Lily blinked, startled. I am fine," she whispered, clutching the photo even tighter, as if it would protect her from the world. He noticed the picture, and his hand trembled slightly as he reached for it. "Where did you get that?" he asked softly. Her eyes widened, and she handed him the photo, its edges frayed from years of being held. "This is my dad," she whispered. The man froze, his face paling as he took the photo, his eyes scanning the image, and then returning to her face. He could not believe what he was seeing. The little girl in front of him, the one crying in the rain, was his daughter, the child he had lost track of years ago, the daughter he had never stopped thinking about. His heart pounded, and for a moment he could not speak. He knelt in the puddles beside her, gently wiping away her tears with his hands. "I have been looking for you," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "I did not know how to find you, but here you are." Lily stared at him, mouth slightly open, as if the world itself had stopped. You are my dad," she whispered, almost afraid to believe it. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. "Yes, sweetheart, I am your dad. I have never stopped thinking about you, and I promise I will never leave you again." The rain poured harder around them, but neither of them noticed they were caught in a bubble of disbelief, relief, and joy that only someone who has been separated for years could understand. He lifted her gently into his arms, holding her close, and whispered, "Let's go home." As he carried her to the car, she felt warmth spread through her chest, a warmth she had never known. She felt safe for the first time in her life. The loneliness that had followed her everywhere faded with each step. The city lights reflected off the wet streets, the cars passing by, the sound of the rain, and for the first time, she realized that hope was not something distant or impossible. It was here in front of her, in the arms of the man who had always been her father. He buckled her into the seat beside him, and as the car drove away, she pressed her face against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart, and thinking that life sometimes gives you a second chance, even when you have almost given up on. Ith held her hand all the way home, telling her stories about his travels, about the mistakes he had made, and the nights he had spent thinking about her. He told her that he had wanted to protect her from the dangers of the world, that he had never meant to leave her, but circumstances had been cruel and unforgiving. And Lily listened, her eyes wide and shining with tears of joy. She had dreamed of this moment for so long, and now it was real. He promised her that from now on she would never be alone, that he would be there for her through every storm, through every fear and every joy. They talked and laughed in the car, as if they were making up for lost time, and for the first time in years, Lily felt like she belonged somewhere, like she had a place in the world that was hers. When they reached the house she had always imagined in her dreams, she could hardly believe it was real. A grand building with warm lights glowing through the windows, and a car waiting to take her inside. He helped her wheel inside, showing her rooms full of warmth and comfort, things she had never had, but always imagined. She ran her fingers over the furniture, the walls, the pictures on the walls, and finally stopped at a mirror looking at herself. Her reflection showed a girl who had been through so much, but also a girl who had been found, a girl who now had a father, a home, and a future. He knelt beside her once more and smiled gently. "You are my daughter," he said, "and I will spend the rest of my life making sure you are happy and safe." And Lily smiled for the first time truly and completely, as if every tear, every lonely night, every moment of doubt had led her to this. She realized that, even in the darkest moments, life could surprise you, that miracles could happen when you least expected them, that hope was a powerful thing that could bring people back together, even when it seemed impossible. And as she sat in her wheelchair, looking out the window at the rain, she felt a happiness that she had never known, a love that was bigger than anything she had imagined, and a connection that would never be broken again. Lily sat in her wheelchair by the large window of her new home, watching the rain fall outside, her father beside her holding her hand gently. She could hardly believe that all of this was real. The warm glow of the house, the soft hum of life around her, it was everything she had dreamed of and more. Her father had spent the day showing her the house, introducing her to people who would take care of her and teaching her about the things she had missed in life. But most importantly, he had spent the day listening to her, telling her stories about her childhood, about the times she had spent alone, and the dreams she had kept hidden in her heart. He told her about the mistakes he had made, how business and power had consumed his life, how he had never intended to leave her, how he had searched silently, hoping that fate would lead him back to her. He explained how every night he had thought about her, wondering if she was safe, if she was happy, if she even remembered him. And Lily listened, tears streaming down her face, feeling the weight of those years, and the relief of knowing that she was finally in the arms of the man who had always been her father. The days passed slowly. As Lily adjusted to a new life, she learned to navigate the halls of the grand house, to meet the staff who treated her with respect and care, to explore the gardens where flowers bloomed in every color she had ever imagined. Every day her father would sit with her and talk for hours, asking about her dreams, her fears, her wishes, and promising that he would do everything to make them come true. He bought her books, toys, and clothes that she had never had, and she realized that the world could be full of kindness and love when the right people were in it. One afternoon, as the sun broke through the clouds, Lily and her father went for a drive through the city. She watched as people bustled by, some smiling, some rushing, unaware of the story unfolding in the black car that glided silently. Among them, her father pointed out places he had known as a young man, restaurants, theaters, parks, telling her little stories about each place, about memories she could now share with him. She smiled, feeling a connection to a past she had never known, feeling that somehow she was a part of this world in a way she never had been before. But despite all the happiness, Lily still carried a small ache in her heart. She remembered the nights when she had felt alone, when the world had seemed unfair, when she had questioned why life had been so cruel. She told her father about those nights, about the fear, the loneliness, the tears that had soaked her pillow, and he held her close, saying that those nights were over, that she would never have to feel that way again, that he would protect her, cherish her, and love her for the rest of their lives. And Lily believed him, because she could feel it in his words, in his touch, in the way he looked at her with eyes full of love and regret. One evening, as they sat together by the fireplace, the room warm and cozy, and the rain tapping softly against the windows, Lily asked her father why he had never come back sooner. He looked into her eyes and sighed, explaining that the world was complicated, that he had made choices that had seemed right at the time, but that nothing had mattered as much as finding her, that he had searched endlessly, and finally fate had brought them together. And Lily felt the depth of his words settling into her heart. A heart that had almost given up on hope, but now beat with joy and certainty. Her father suggested that they plan a small celebration, just for the two of them, to mark the beginning of their new life together, and Lily agreed excitedly. They decorated the living room with flowers and lights, and prepared a small cake, laughing and sharing stories as they worked. Her father even sang a silly song, making her giggle until tears of laughter ran down her cheeks. She realized that happiness was not something she had to wait for, that it could be created in moments with people who loved you. And for the first time, she felt completely safe, completely seen, completely loved. As Night fell, and the stars began to twinkle outside. Lily sat on her father's lap looking up at the sky. She told him about the dreams she had kept secret, about wanting to travel, about wanting to learn about the world, about making friends, and being part of something bigger. He nodded and promised to help her achieve every dream, to support her in every endeavor, to show her that her life was valuable, precious, and worth every effort. He held her tightly, whispering that nothing would ever separate them again, and Lily smiled, feeling the truth of his words. Deep inside, her soul days turned into weeks and weeks into months, and Lily began to blossom. She attended lessons at home, learning about history, science, art, and literature. Her father encouraged her to express herself, to explore her talents, and to believe in her abilities. He arranged for her to meet other children who shared her interests, and slowly she began to build friendships. Learning that the world was full of kindness and possibilities, she discovered laughter, joy, and adventure, and realized that even the rain that had once seemed so cold and lonely could now feel refreshing and beautiful when shared with someone who cared. Her father watched her with pride. As she grew stronger, more confident, more joyful, he realized that every tear, every regret, every lonely night had led them to this point, that the bond they shared was unbreakable, that love had the power to heal even the deepest wounds. He spent hours with her in the garden, reading stories, watching her explore, helping her create art and music, and sharing dreams of the future. She told him about the places she wanted to see, people she wanted to meet, stories she wanted to write, and he promised to be there every step of the way. One rainy afternoon, as they sat together, sipping tea, Lily turned to him and whispered that she was happy that she had finally found him, that she could not imagine life without him, and he hugged her tightly, saying that he felt the same, that she had completed a part of him that he did not know was missing. And together they watched the rain fall, realizing that life could be cruel, but it could also be miraculous, that hope could survive even in the darkest moments, that love could bring back what was lost, and create a future full of possibilities. And so Lily's life began anew, full of warmth, love, and joy. She had finally found her father, and he had found her. She had learned that no matter how difficult life could be, miracles could happen, that second chances were real, and that happiness could be found in the most unexpected places. She rolled through the halls of her new home, smiling, greeting people, learning, exploring, and most importantly loving, knowing that she was never alone again, that the rain no longer symbolized sadness but renewal, that every tear had led her to this moment of pure, unending happiness and love, with a man who would always be her father, her protector, and her best friend for the rest of their lives.